Chosen, take a deep breath. If you are here, it is not by chance. Something inside you, something stronger than logic, felt the calling. Today, August 28th, with the waxing moon in Scorpio, a vortex of deep transformation begins to open. And all of this is preparing you for a unique, irreversible, spiritually decisive moment, the January 9th portal. But pay attention, not everyone is ready to pass through it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what is about to happen, the signs that are already around you, and the spiritual choices you need to make before it's too late. This video contains revelations that have been hidden for a very long time. If you feel like you don't belong in this world, if you are being isolated, tested, or experiencing symptoms no one can explain, stay until the end. Because by the end of this video, you will understand why your soul chose to be here, right now. Time is running out, and those who are not awakened by September 1 SD will be left behind to ST lucid silence. The fatigue weighing on you today doesn't come only from your routine. It carries the density of memories you pushed aside, of promises you made to yourself but didn't keep. The waxing moon in Scorpio touches these layers like someone gently knocking on a locked door from the inside. It doesn't force its way in, but it also doesn't allow you to pretend you didn't hear it. It is a silent call to return to the pieces left behind, to finally look at what still hurts, not as a victim, but as someone choosing to reconnect with their wholeness. There is a kind of pain that doesn't ask for immediate healing, but for presence. Scorpio rules invisible processes, grief, transformation, rebirth. This waxing moon is like a blade of light, separating what still serves from what has already decayed. Yes, it grows, but only within those who have the courage to stop lying to themselves. You can keep running and tiring, or you can use that very exhaustion as a guide, as the thermometer of your soul. Not all weariness calls for rest. Sometimes it calls for release. Maybe you've tried to change many times, but always without touching the real point. Scorpio, with its honest intensity, cuts through shortcuts. The August 28th portal is symbolic. It doesn't open external doors, but internal cracks. You're no longer where you once were. But to move forward, you must descend one last step, the step of acceptance. There is no spiritual leap without an emotional plunge. And yes, it is in that abyss that many rediscover solid ground. The wisdom of this day isn't found in advice you've read or techniques you've tried. It's in your body, pulsing truth. It's in the undigested feeling that needs to be heard. The waxing moon in Scorpio wants to prepare you to grow, but growth only happens for those who surrender to radical honesty. Don't be afraid of what you feel. It is precisely what you feel, that weight, that discomfort, that restlessness, that holds the key to your next version. The one that no longer needs to carry what can finally be left behind. Some parts of you have been silenced for so long that you almost forgot they were there. But the body remembers, and the soul, even more. The scorpionic energy of this waxing moon acts like an invisible tide, pulling to the surface everything that has been buried. Old fears, stored resentments, decisions left hanging in the limbo of one day I'll deal with this. Today is that day, and it's not about facing everything at once, but about stopping the act of running from yourself. The August 28th portal is not an external explosion, it's an inner tremor, a silent turning point that only those who are paying attention can feel. And you feel it, even if you still doubt, even if you try to rationalize. There is something pulsing within you more strongly now. Scorpio doesn't want you to get hurt. It wants you to stop abandoning yourself. Your exhaustion is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of a journey where your vulnerability becomes your compass, not your weakness. You have carried masks for far too long, tried to appear strong, productive, coherent, while inside, all you longed for was a safe space to exist as you truly are. This moon does not tolerate pretending. It offers rebirth, but only to those willing to let the constructed image die. Scorpio knows that true power is born only from honesty. And today, the universe whispers, you are already ready, even if you are still afraid. Give yourself permission to feel everything that arises, without rushing to fix it. Some discomforts are not here to be eliminated, but to be understood. The energy of this portal is not a threat, but an invitation. And each part of you that is recognized, even the darkest one, will ignite a new light within your inner field. The waxing moon moves forward, and with it, so does your soul. Lighter, more conscious, more whole. Because this time, you did not leave yourself for later. You were expecting relief. You walked the path with devotion, cleared the ground, made space. But when the August 27th portal opened, what came was an intense wave. Painful memories, old insecurities, anxieties you thought you had already overcome. This is not regression. It is revelation. What rises now is exactly what prevents you from sustaining the new reality you've been asking for. The universe doesn't respond with red carpets, but with deep mirrors that show you what is still misaligned. The waxing moon in Scorpio ignites this sharp blade. It doesn't soften, it reveals. And deep down, you feel there is no more room to postpone this crossing. What once seemed like stability was only familiarity with what limits you. Now, the movement is different. It's not about moving on as before. It's about descending a layer deeper within yourself, to where the exact point of pain has turned into a pattern, and touching it with courage. The exhaustion weighing on your body may be the resistance of a part of you that still wants to remain in the familiar. But the portal doesn't negotiate with illusions. It didn't come to fulfill expectations. It came to tear apart what was stitched together with fear, to break down facades built to please, to dismantle the false comfort of control. Scorpio wants your essence bare, without filters, without excuses. Transformation only happens when there's nowhere left to run. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to feel ready. You only need to say yes to what is alive within you right now, even if it hurts, confuses, or feels disorganized. Because this is the beginning of the Real, the place where the soul stops pretending and begins to move in truth. The waxing moon continues its course, illuminating not the path outside, but the caves within. And it is there, in the fertile darkness, that you will find the light no one can ever take from you. The wound pulsing now is not a sign of failure, but of activation. Scorpio rules the deepest layers of the psyche, and when the moon expands in this territory, nothing remains hidden for long. What is surfacing? Forgotten sorrows, buried resentments, parts of yourself that were repressed, is exactly what needs to be seen before any true leap forward. Growth is not about avoiding pain, but allowing it to reveal where truth is still missing. And the August 28th portal has come to demand that. There is no way to move forward while carrying what has already proven too small for who you are becoming. This is the necessary deconstruction, to abandon roles that no longer fit, to admit desires that once seemed improper, to accept that evolving also requires loss. It is a silent mourning, not for what has died, but for what you pretended to be in order to survive. The current discomfort is the friction between the conditioned self and the awakened self. And you feel it in your body, in your rhythm, in your dreams. The waxing moon illuminates points of tension not to expose them to the world, but so that you may embrace them with radical presence. This portal does not want your perfection. It wants your surrender to authenticity. The collapse you fear may in fact be the fall of the walls that prevented your flourishing. Scorpio speaks of the life that emerges after destruction, and it is within this apparent chaos that you find the fertile ground of your reconstruction. More real, more powerful, more you. Be honest with your pain. Listen to what it is trying to communicate, rather than silencing it with distractions or promises of quick relief. What you feel in these days is not punishment, it is preparation. A soul that seeks expansion must also learn to honor the cycles of ruin, because it is on broken ground that the deepest roots are born. The waxing moon does not ask for haste, but for presence. The portal is open. Now it is you who must decide to step through. You try to keep everything in place: the serene appearance, the controlled voice, the discreet smile. But inside, there's an accumulated tension, as if your soul were trapped in a room too small. The anger you feel is not excess, it's a signal. The sadness that returns is not weakness, it's a compass. You were taught to be strong by swallowing words, when in truth, real strength begins when they are released with honesty. And now, this moment demands that of you. The waxing moon in Scorpio lights up the dark corridors of feeling. It does not come as calm, but as a calling. Be honest with yourself. To speak what hurts is not aggression, it's clarity. To hold grudges is not wisdom, it's self-abandonment. In this portal, you are given the chance to create inner space for the courage to express what has been buried for far too long. And it's not about shouting to the world, but whispering intimate truths with dignity. Maybe you'll cry. Maybe you'll get angry. Maybe your voice will tremble at first. But every word released with awareness is like a key unlocking an old knot. The body thanks you. The chest feels lighter. The energy begins to flow again. Scorpio does not tolerate emotional repression. It knows that the very power you seek lies within what you fear to face. Healing comes from breaking out of the emotional shell and embracing your feelings as wisdom, not as error. On this August 28th, the sky offers a pact. You can keep silencing yourself and slowly getting sick, or you can choose to express yourself with the integrity of one who knows that feeling is part of your medicine. The world does not need your neutrality, it needs your wholeness. There is strength in speaking with an open heart, without mask, without script. The waxing moon in Scorpio beats like an ancestral drum. And the question it asks you is simple and direct. How long will you keep swallowing what you actually long to set free? The soul matures when you stop negotiating with what wounds you in silence. There are pains that do not want a stage, but rather an altar where they can be acknowledged. The lunar transit in Scorpio, in this waxing phase, acts as a mirror that does not spare, reflecting every suppressed part of your emotional truth. Not to punish you, but to free you. You may fool the world with a steady smile, but your body, wise, holds the symptoms of what was left unsaid. This August 28th portal pulses with the urgency of what can no longer be postponed. It pierces subtle masks and invites you to be whole, without apologizing for your sensitivity. To speak your emotional truth does not mean burning bridges. It means building them with real foundations. What comes to the surface now is not new, but old and neglected. Scorpio only deepens what was already there, waiting for the courage to emerge. There is something in you ready to be spoken, maybe a choked hurt, a denied need, an old pain you learned to silence. The waxing moon pushes this energy outward, and there is no longer a way to resist without paying a high price. The price of self-disconnection. Authenticity hurts at first, because it requires breaking away from personas, but it brings relief when you realize that living your own truth is one of the greatest acts of self-love. Today, the sky asks you, how long will you stay silent just to avoid disturbing others? How long will you protect everyone else's peace at the expense of your own? The August 28th portal wants you to choose wholeness, not performance. Use your voice as an instrument of healing, not as a weapon, not as a shield. You don't need to shout, but you need to be honest. Who you are, whole, vulnerable, true, is exactly what the world and your soul need most right now. You didn't come this far by accident. There's a reason certain memories still burn, even when you swore you had already overcome them. The exhaustion visiting you today is not just physical. It's the silent signal that parts of you were left behind in the name of survival. You sacrificed authentic joys to sustain fragile bonds. You buried your spontaneity to maintain an image you barely recognize anymore. And now, even without knowing how, you feel that something must return. The waxing moon in Scorpio, activated on this August 28th, acts as a guardian of return. It whispers that it's not too late to reintegrate, that it's possible to move forward without remaining fractured. What was broken can be mended with gold, like in the art of kintsugi, and its brilliance will lie in the very scars. The cosmos is not pushing you backward, but offering you a rare chance to go forward whole, but only if you're willing to retrieve what you once dropped. Perhaps your greatest courage now is not to keep moving forward, but to stop, to breathe, to look with honesty at the parts of yourself that were silenced by haste, pride, or fear. The August 28th portal is opening deep passages within you, and they are not for escape, but for reconciliation. Scorpio rules rebirth, and no rebirth is possible without first encountering the ruins of what once was. You are being called to descend with dignity and return with integrity. The path of ascension is not made of light alone, but of wholeness. And wholeness requires you to recognize the shadows, the mistakes, the detours, not to blame yourself, but to return to yourself with awareness. The waxing moon does not want perfect versions of you. It wants you awake, present, real. Today may not be the day for big external choices, but it can be the day to make the most important move of all, to return with love to the parts of yourself still waiting to be seen. Some cycles don't close with answers, but with the courage to ask new questions. The waxing moon in Scorpio doesn't demand immediate solutions, but radical presence before what pulses in the dark. The parts of you that were once denied don't need to be fixed. They need to be recognized. While you try to move forward with only half of yourself, the universe pauses the path to remind you that moving whole is more important than moving fast. This portal is not just about passage. It's about returning to what you once refused to embrace. The lunar transit in Scorpio on this August 28th points directly to the gap between what you feel and what you show, between what still wounds you and what you pretend to have overcome. Scorpio rules the symbolic underworld, not as punishment, but as a temple where the exiled within can finally be received. And this transit does not soothe, it confronts. Yet it also offers a secret pact to the inner hero. Every wound embraced becomes a source. Every reintegrated part restores power to your center. Perhaps that's why the fatigue feels deeper, the sensitivity sharper, the memories more vivid. You are in touch with the root, with what shaped you, yes, but also with what you can still transmute. Reintegration does not require shouting or grand promises. It begins with small gestures, saying no where you once stayed silent, crying where you used to harden, allowing yourself to be truthful, even when it means disappointing someone's expectations. You are being prepared, not to become someone else, but to return to who you always were, before fear, before pressure, before fragmentation. The August 28th portal doesn't close doors. It opens a passage between who you became out of defense and who you can now be by choice. It is a call to sit with yourself, without filters. And there, in that raw and honest space, to redeem what was lost, and to reintegrate with tenderness everything you thought you had to hide. Some cycles don't close with answers, but with the courage to ask new questions. The waxing moon in Scorpio doesn't demand immediate solutions, but radical presence before what pulses in the dark. The parts of you that were once denied don't need to be fixed, they need to be recognized. While you try to move forward with only half of yourself, the universe pauses the path to remind you that moving whole is more important than moving fast. This portal is not just about passage. It's about returning to what you once refused to embrace. The lunar transit in Scorpio on August 28th points directly to the gap between what you feel and what you show, between what still wounds you and what you pretend to have already overcome. Scorpio rules the symbolic underworld, not as punishment, but as a temple where the exiled within can finally be received. And this transit does not soothe, it confronts. Yet it also offers a secret pact to the inner hero. Every wound embraced becomes a source. Every reintegrated part restores power to your center. Perhaps that's why the fatigue feels heavier, the sensitivity sharper, the memories more vivid. You are in contact with the root, with what shaped you. Yes, but also with what you can still transmute. Reintegration does not require shouting or grand promises. It begins with small gestures, saying no where you once stayed silent, crying where you once hardened, allowing yourself to be truthful, even when it means disappointing someone else's expectations. You are being prepared, not to become someone else, but to return to who you always were, before fear, before pressure, before fragmentation. The August 28th portal doesn't close doors. It opens a passage between who you became out of defense and who you can now be by choice. It is a call to sit with yourself, without filters, and there, in that raw and honest space, to redeem what was lost, and to reintegrate with tenderness everything you once thought you had to hide. There comes a point when you can no longer pretend that everything is fine. You may smile on the outside, keep up with your schedule, reply to messages, but inside, there is a calling. And it's not new. It's only louder now. The waxing moon in Scorpio amplifies this calling and pushes you toward reintegration. What once seemed invisible now pulses through the body, a discomfort, an urgency, a voice whispering firmly that it's time to live something with soul. This lunar transit doesn't soften, it intensifies. Because you need to see. You need to feel the weight of what you no longer want. You need to accept that, no matter how much you've adapted, you weren't born to merely survive inside molds that suffocate you. The August 28th portal activates the clarity needed for you to stop abandoning yourself. The discomfort you feel now is not punishment. It is liberation in progress. Just don't try to control it. This process calls for courage, not control. Scorpio rules radical inner transformations. And for that reason, you may find yourself facing intense emotions, old memories, or decisions that feel too painful. But it's precisely there that the chance to align with your greater destiny lies. Every ascending soul walks through this valley. Every authentic mission requires crossing the shadow, not to suffer, but to be reborn with greater truth. The hero within you does not run from the abyss. He crosses it. Perhaps what is collapsing today is not failure, but release. A cleansing of everything that was blocking your mission from blooming. The waxing moon in Scorpio won't let you distract yourself with superficialities. It demands presence, surrender, and truth. And in this August 28th portal, the choice is yours. Keep losing yourself, or allow what is real within you to finally lead the way. Because after this, there is no going back, only rebirth.